Saving time and money is essential on every construction project. What if there was a way to reduce the space required for a parking structure by 40 to 60%, save money by eliminating the floors of concrete needed for a traditional parking structure, and also save 30 to 90 days of time on the overall project? All of this is achievable. And on today's show, you'll find out how. This is the first in a series of interviews that I'll be doing with CEOs of companies that are leading the construction industry forward in terms of new systems, processes, and technologies. My guest on today's show is Scott Gable, CEO of a company that is revolutionizing the way buildings are built in the United States. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Welcome to Construction Genius. My name is Eric Anderton, and it's my pleasure to welcome to the show Scott Gable, the CEO of CityLift Parking. Scott, welcome.
Thanks, Eric. Good to be here.
Now, Scott, you are the CEO of CityLift Parking, and CityLift is an automated parking company. Tell me, what is automated parking?
So automated parking is a way to store vehicles vertically. Rather than using conventional parking, you can create a system that is a combination of structural steel, mechanical system, and electronics, all brought together in a way that stacks cars vertically on top of each other.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I know this is a new industry that is really well established in Europe and Asia. Why do you think it is that it's less common here in the United States?
Land constraint was always an issue in Asia and Europe when construction really started up, particularly post-World War II. Whereas in the United States, we, for a long time, had sufficient land to continue to grow and expand horizontally across our landscape. But that's changed. And particularly in the last cycle of construction, what's happened is there's been a movement towards people coming back into cities, and suddenly there isn't the availability of land to do what people wanted to do without having to think differently about how to solve some of the typical challenges for construction in a land-constrained environment.
That's interesting. So as the demand for housing and office space is increasing, there's a need to look at things differently in terms of how to build spaces in order to accommodate that capacity issue.
Right. Someone acquiring a piece of land today may not have a perfect rectangle. It might be in a weird location, but they still need to make the building work. And many times parking is not only required, but it's also the biggest constraint that has to be solved in order for a building to be built.
Interesting. Now, as the CEO, you guys have been in business now for about 5 years. What have you seen that's changed in the marketplace in that 5-year time frame that you feel is making automated parking much more of an option for developers and for folks who are building?
I think the biggest piece was awareness that there was an option. So a lot of people in the construction world or in the development world were trying to figure out this problem because a building may not be economically viable when it's designed with a conventional parking space. However, if you can use automated parking, we find that oftentimes you save at least half of the space that would be needed to build a conventional garage. So that means that the building suddenly has 50% more space that they can work with that can be used for a higher and better purpose than parking. So that could be more apartments or more offices than what they would have had otherwise.
How do you think the rise of autonomous vehicles and ride sharing, how does that impact what it is that you guys do? Yeah,
it's interesting. More recently, this is a new phenomena. We've seen from the design community, the combination of the architects and the developers, a anticipation that there may be a world out there in the future with fewer vehicles needed. And so when they're building a new building, they want to make sure that they take that into account. And one of the benefits of using automated parking versus conventional parking is you can usually build automated parking into something that has a nice tall ceiling and it just goes in as equipment into that space. So let's say it's a 12 or 18 foot ceiling in a building. And if in the future the demand for parking goes down, then you could remove the equipment and reuse the space for another purpose. So not only does the developer get more space for their current building, but it gives them also a free option in the future to be able to do something differently with that space if the demand for parking changes.
That's very interesting because folks involved in construction, they know that they need to adopt new technologies and new approaches, but they're sometimes notoriously reluctant to do that because of the risks involved with construction and the uncertainties and the costs. How do you overcome some of those challenges when you're presenting automated parking to developers or to construction companies?
Well, when we were starting out and we didn't have anything to show people, that was difficult. But today, and the real way we got going is we had certain developers who were investors in our company who were willing to take the risk and to go ahead and put these types of automated parking systems into their buildings that they were building. But now when you dial the clock forward to today, we have over 2,000 spaces installed in the US and a variety of different markets around the country. And we take people and we show them. Once they can see it, then they understand it.
Oh, that's interesting. And so tell me how the flexibility that you described, how does that really play into how you see the market for automated parking growing in the next few years?
Yeah, so we really don't know where the ceiling is in terms of the market size for automated parking. So what we think is out there is a very large industry that builds conventional parking year in and year out. But that market is continually getting challenged. And what we think is happening is that we're just taking a larger and larger share of that market as it grows.
That's interesting. As you're involved in these projects, what challenges are you finding when it comes to installation, working with the construction companies? What do you think the biggest challenges that you have?
I think for the times when we're working with people that have not done automated parking before, there's a newness factor. And so a lot of it comes down to education, setting early on the practices that we need to have in place in order to make this work. So setting the schedule, when do you install the project? What are the requirements for the product that are outside of just installing the equipment? What kinds of permitting issues are there that need to be addressed with? All of those things need to be coordinated. And a big part of what we do in adding to this whole ecosystem of construction is to be able to help walk people through that and to make sure that we're delivering as a partner during the construction phase of the project so that the work goes well.
So you guys are not only designing these systems, but you're also installing them and servicing them.
Correct.
And so you're project managing alongside with the general contractors. You have your own project managers on site during the installation.
Right. So our project managers will be managing usually people that we've trained up that are third-party subs to us. And we have a series of these around the country that we've set up and that we work with. What
are the major lessons do you think that you've learned? So you've got 2,000 spaces installed. Just from the construction point of view, what would you say are the major lessons that you've learned over the past few years that have enabled you to become more efficient and more effective in terms of the installation of these systems?
Yeah, I think it starts with where we begin in the whole cycle, working on the project itself. So the design of the building is critical to how well the project's going to go. So a lot of times we will begin at the conceptual stage with an architect and the developer thinking about how automated parking is going to go into their building. We can be somewhat flexible because we've got systems that can be designed modularly that can fit into different scenarios, but it's important to work through those details up front. And similarly, once you're starting into the actual getting ready for construction, that whole pre-construction planning phase is absolutely critical. So our team, which we've brought on board since we started the company, are comprised of people that have come from large construction companies who have good experience in planning and managing projects. And that's absolutely essential. A lot of where you can get into trouble is if you don't do that pre-work, all of that pre-planning up front, and anticipating some of the problems. And not that you won't encounter the typical challenges you do in a construction project, but you'll save a ton of time and a ton of effort if you have it planned.
So that's interesting because you're introducing this new perspective and to a certain degree new technologies, new approaches, but the emphasis around planning never changes in construction, and the importance of that upfront hard work with the various parties involved to make sure that you do whatever you can to ensure a smooth installation.
Yeah, we didn't reinvent that.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. What would you say, in your mind, as you look at the marketplace, you look at the growth opportunities, what would you say are the major things that a developer or a general contractor should be focused on in terms of automated parking?
Well, I think that the biggest thing is to start not with automated parking, but start with what the challenges you're trying to solve for your building.
There you go.
So if you can start there and determine if, in fact, automated parking saves you the space or saves you the cost that enables you to go from not having a building that's viable to actually getting something done, that's what we're in the business of doing,
right?
Is allowing that to happen. And my one counsel, and we handle CityLift, we handle this every single day, is to take inquiries, take the time to make an inquiry about automated parking with a conceptual design. A good company will be able to get back to you right away with some good best fit ideas around how many spaces you can get and what kind of what kind of geometry you'll need to have for that building in order to make it work. And once you have that, then that can be built into your thought process as you're working through the rest of your design. So
it's very important that someone isn't just purchasing a widget here. The design aspect of it is extremely important, and you're looking to solve that particular problem. And from what you're telling me here, the problems that your systems can solve is, number one, obviously saving space. Number two, saving cost. And then number three, I think it's sort of not a hidden one, but something that's sort of a bonus, is this idea of that flexibility. That flexibility so that you can change the space in the future in a way that perhaps you couldn't if you had a traditional parking structure.
Right. If I can just speak to each of those real quickly.
Yeah, please do.
So on saving space, it's, as I mentioned earlier, we can usually save 40 to 60% of the space needed for parking.
There you go.
Let's call it 50% to call it a round number.
Right on.
On the cost side, the typical savings come in three areas.
Right.
If someone was looking to excavate, we can usually reduce excavation depth. Mm-hmm. If we can build structured parking where we can eliminate slabs of concrete, then we're able to give the space back for that purpose as well, or save the money for that, eliminating the floors of concrete needed for the construction.
Excellent.
And the third one is time. So we can build this much faster than building a traditional garage.
Okay.
So that allows the developer to save time on their building, and 30, 60, 90 days of time is huge.
That's awesome. And so how much, do you do much offsite prefabrication? How do you guys do that?
Yes. So we will deliver to our job sites a number of components that are already been prefabricated. Right. So think of it as a kit.
Yeah.
We manufacture the kits in, we manufacture these kits. We put them into shipping containers. We bring them to a warehouse. We unload them and then ship them to the job site real time.
Right on.
The materials that we need in sequence to build an efficient project.
Excellent. So that also helps with the installation and issues of schedule and things like that. That's right. Awesome. So in light of a takeaway here for the audience, what would you say to someone who's a developer or a general contractor thinking about their next project that's maybe in an urban environment? What would you say to them in terms of looking at an automated parking solution? Start early in your planning process. Think about what you need and get engaged with somebody who can help you look at that problem and see if you can do that. CityLift is obviously in that business, and we encourage people to get a hold of us. Awesome. Great. Well, I really appreciate your time, Scott. Thank you for joining me today on Construction Genius. Yeah, thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity, and to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.